Welcome. You're here to compete in Mortal Kombat. You are all witnesses to one of the greatest turning points in the history of your planet. Treasure these moments as if they were your last. And now for a taste of things to come.
Begins between HDStarcraft and HuskyStarcraft here on Lost Temple. It's going to take a moment for the maps to load, and then we'll get this game underway. So we're going to start the game with HD spawning as the blue Zerg on the 6 o'clock position. Meanwhile, we're going to have Husky spawning as the pretty in pink Protoss over here on the north side of the map. This is going to be a cross spawn, so you may see a 14 hatchery come in from Alex, as we now have There was no PV. Quickly pausing the game.
I think he didn't know the Zerg. Yeah, I think he didn't know what the settings.
Yeah, so we're going to wait for Alex to set up his mouse real fast, make sure that the sensitivity is a little bit lower.
I was the jerk that changed all the settings to just my specialty, and of course nobody else likes those, so here we go. Alright, we're getting underway. As Curtis said, this is cross spawn of a pink Protoss, a Husky the Beautiful, and the blue Zerg, HD the Powerful. And they are, as he said, going cross spawn, and so we should be able to see a nice macro-intensive game where they're not too aggressive, but again, only the game will tell.
Alright, so what do you think the options are in this particular matchup, especially in a cross spawn? I'm expecting a lot of early defense coming in from the Zerg, not too much early gas, maybe some spine crawlers on the low ground with some Zerglings for scouting. Meanwhile, what can Husky do in this situation to try to counter this?
Again, the Husky's best bet is to really keep a watch on what the Zerg is doing. If the Zerg's going to be expanding really quickly and really trying to get an economy up, he has one of two options. He can get really aggressive, or he can do the same. And I really prefer and have a harder time when Protoss does the same. But again, you know, you always have the classic 4-gate, which is quite powerful when executed correctly and has quite a few variations. And then, you know, it's up to Husky.
Alright, so at this point in time, we're pretty much waiting for Husky to see if he goes for an early assimilator or tries to go for a double gateway. If he does go for a double gateway, that'll put a lot of pressure with those early zealots. But interestingly enough, Alex is not going for that 14 hatchery that we had talked about earlier. He went for a 14 spawning pool for earlier Zerglings. It will allow him to get a little bit more queens in the early portion of the map, but he won't have that strong economy that we were talking about on this cross spawn map.
Yeah, and what's good though is even Zerg when they do an early pool, they can still expand quite early. So we'll just have to wait and see whether he decides to go for a gas kind of Zergling heavy first, or if he decides to just kind of do a little bit of a delayed fast expand.
Yeah, and it looks that way as we see Husky now getting down a cybernetic score. So pretty much a standard opening. We only see one gas coming in from Husky so far. So it doesn't look like he's going to go for a very, very heavy sentry or any sort of tech focus. I'm assuming there's going to be at least one additional gateway thrown down before we get maybe a robotics facility or even a Stargate. But it looks like Husky is now waiting for that assimilator. And there we go. So we may be going for more of a Stargate or a robotics facility. What do you think off of a 2 gas?
With the second gas that early, it can mean one of two things. It can mean he's going for really early sentries, or he is definitely going to try to go for something maybe like Colossus, or even a Stargate, early Stargate. Okay, and yeah, so we just got a pylon thrown down in HD's natural, so that's going to slow down his expansion by quite a bit. As you see, the drone is even attacking and trying to get rid of it, and it just went down, so we're going to get an expansion up for our Zerg player.
Yeah, another thing to notice is that you can see Alex or HDStarcraft currently setting up 2 of those very, very key overlords in the base. One on the high ledge outside the expansion of Husky, meanwhile another on the backside, making sure that if there are any Phoenixes or any sort of War Prism play that he'll be able to scout it out very quickly. Also, it looks like he's trying to hide a pylon on the top left-hand side of his base, and he may try to put a Twilight Council there or some other key technical building there. Not quite sure why he would try to hide it there, as a lot of Zerg players like to try to hug that top corner with an Overlord and then do some scouting. As we now have 2 Zerglings coming into the base, 1 Stalker nicely hiding behind 1 pylon there, able to kill those units from a distance.
Yeah, this is definitely shaping up to be not a very standard game, if you will. The Zerg is playing fairly standard, despite his one drone that you can see sitting there in the middle of his base in the bottom is just not doing anything, and that's kind of sad. It makes me sad when drones sit there lonely. I understand how they feel. But up in the north with the Protoss, we see 2 Stargates going down. Oh no, Stargate and the Gateway, excuse me. So the Stargate is, we're going to see whether he's going to try to go for a little bit of Phoenix pressure or he's going to go for a Void Ray.
So what are the differences between Phoenix pressure and Void Ray pressure this early?
Really, in the end, they kind of have the same objective. One just has a little bit more of a long-term use. When you're going Phoenixes, you have the tendency to pull them back and use them when you get into the big battle, whereas Void Rays, you're really just trying to put a lot of early base pressure and slow them down. So we'll just have to see which route he goes for. In a cross spawn, it's definitely easier to kind of sneak Void Rays around without them being detected. But okay, so you see he is going the Phoenix build. So he's going to probably use a few Phoenixes and lift some drones up in the air to do some early harassment, maybe even some queens, and then later on use them to counter any air that is used.
I really agree with Husky's uses of Phoenixes in this game. If you take a look at the map right now, he really is just playing in the dark. He's not activating any of the Zonaga watchtowers, and that Phoenix really just opens up the map a lot more for him. It's a very, very fast-moving unit, 4.25, I believe, compared to the other scouters, 1.88 on the Overlords. So that one Overlord will try to slowly fly away, but that Phoenix that can move and attack will just get that quick kill there, and Alex will lose one Overlord, perhaps another one on the other south side of this base as well. So this is looking up to be a pretty good match here.
Yeah, there was one thing I forgot to mention is that Phoenix is really great for map control. I mean, you only need one, and you can start going around the map just kind of picking off the Overlords, which Overlords are key for any Zerg to get information. So he looks like he's definitely not going to try to be too aggressive with that Phoenix, trying to pick off drones or queens here and there, but instead, he's just going to deny all information from the Zerg, so he has a lot more map control and a lot more power.
Taking a look at the units tab, you can see that both sides are pretty much trying to get a really, really strong economy so far, but we do have a group of Zerglings now moving off to the north, and all those Zealots are trying to run back just in time. Will they be able to engage? No. The Zealots and the Zerglings just dancing around the map at the natural expansion, but Husky really needs to set up an expansion at some point. Those Zerglings just sitting there, just taunting those Zealots. Come on, chase me, chase me. But no, those Zerglings just going to back off instead. I do not believe they have the movement speed, though. So, no wings on those Zerglings, so they are not moving all too quickly. However, one Overlord will get shot down by 2 Phoenixes once again. An HD Gamer will not be supply locked, but it will put a little bit of a damper on his larva and drone production.
Yeah, this is actually a really smart move. Some of you may be looking at this wondering why he doesn't just move out with those Zealots and Stalkers, which could easily take that small force of Zerglings. But the issue is that those Zerglings can run by into his base and do a lot of proc damage, and also keeping those Zerglings running around and leaving that threat really makes Husky hesitant to throw down an expansion in his natural. So it's a really good choice by HD to just have a small force of Zerglings to keep what he wants to happen happening and under control.
Another cool thing to know, or another key thing to know particularly, is with the number of Phoenixes that Husky is currently trying to mass up, and you're going to see a lot more Hydralisks and a lot more just ground units to try to counteract those Phoenixes. And normally a Protoss player will try to get a critical mass of Phoenixes and then do a tech switch into Colossi. Colossi, with that extended thermal lance range, really just ease through Hydralisks all too quickly. And now that if if HD invests too heavily into those Hydralisks, he will have a problem if Husky does try to do that tech switch. We do see a Forge coming out in 2 additional gateways, however, so it doesn't look like that he's trying to go for a very, very heavy robotics facility build, just maybe a 4 or 5 gate with that 1 Stargate, but Husky really needs to take an expansion.
Yeah, and, so it looks like here that we're going to get kind of well, it depends. Okay, so Husky does seem to be going for the base. He doesn't seem to want to back off and try to get those Zerglings. So it looks like we're going to have a little bit of a base trade. Not too heavy. We'll see what kind of damage they do to each other. It looks like Husky's being kind of passive. He's tempted to go in there, but he doesn't know what he should do, whereas, of course, HD is running straight for that probe line, taking out as many probes as possible. We've got a lot of Phoenixes lifting up queens and trying to get those out of the air because, obviously, they are an extra damage, as well as being able to pump in a lot of extra larvae, which you want to reduce the amount of reinforcements. We've got these Zerglings taking on some Zealots while trying to reduce the probe count as little as possible. The Hydralisks are doing a great job of cleaning up this ground force. As you know, Hydralisks are great against gateway units. So it looks like both players are going to be thwarting off these base trades. And we're going to go back to our macro game.
Yeah, but I don't know. Just like one base trade in this situation, I don't think that was just all too smart by Husky. Husky only has one base, and currently HD has two. So 1 for 1, you're down to 1-0. If you can take a look at the units tab, I'm thinking that Husky is probably really far behind hit U on the keyboard, and you can see 14 probes versus 36. So right now, all Alex has to do, or just HD has to do, is just sit back, relax, just slowly macro up a very large army, and then if he just sits back, he will be able to mine about, I believe, 500 to 600 minerals more a minute, which is just going to account for a lot of losses.
Yeah, what's sad but true is that it's looking really grim for Husky right now. You know, an economy hit, especially for Protoss, where they can only make one probe at a time on one base, is going to slow them down just so much. And that attack really didn't do much to our Zerg. So it looks like he's actually going to opt for the more macro game and just kind of build up and keep his lead instead of trying to get too aggressive and possibly throw his lead. So we're shaping up to see a game where as long as the Zerg keeps his control on his advantage, the Zerg should be in map control for the rest of the game.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that we saw earlier was the income tab, and there's only a 300 mineral difference. A key thing to note is that Husky right now is not mining, Husky's not mining any gas right now. So at 0 gas, he's not going to be able to get any stalkers or any other tech units besides zealots. He's also saving up a lot of chrono boost on that one nexus when he should really be trying to chrono boost more and more probes out of there. He really needs to just stay on top of his macro. Otherwise, Alex is just going to just roll him over. You can see that Alex is, or HD, currently getting 1,300 minerals a minute and about 500 gas a minute. So that's going to be a lot of mutalisks and a lot of units. And now all of a sudden, that's the army tab. Okay, so it's kind of scared me for a second.
Yeah, as you can see, there's actually double the army for the Zerg. We have 99 out of 47, which is quite the change in unit count and supply. And something that a lot of players overlook, if you look at all that purple on the bottom of the map, all that creep that's spreading, that's going to allow the Zerg to have a lot more mobility. So if the Protoss tries to do any attacks or do any damage to the Zerg base, it's going to be quite difficult because the Zerg units can move a lot faster on that creep. So he's doing a great job keeping that spread out and trying to push towards that Protoss base so he has the ultimate mobility.
Yeah, so one of the things to note is, even though the army tab is 1,400 versus 1,925, the food count's really a large difference, 59 compared to 118. We do see that HDStarcraft is currently supply locked, so he's unable to train any additional units because of one Overlord. And we'll see whether or not we're going to see any early aggression coming out. We do see a swarm of blue now coming in from the south side in the Husky's base. There's a lot of roaches, a lot of Hydralisks. Those Hydralisks have the level 1, the range upgrade, and now with those photon cannons in place, we'll be able to thwart that attack. So very nicely done so far with those force fields as well. He could have been able to split up those Hydralisks, get them out of range, and then just try to trap those roaches and with those sentries and those cannons.
Yeah, this is definitely a good move by Husky, putting those cannons in the way, because of the nice small choke that Lost Temple has. It adds even more viability to those cannons. So that small force, despite the food difference, those two cannons add a lot to the power of his force and forces the Zerg to move back. So again, we're just going to kind of keep going to the macro game, HD being a smart player and saying, okay, I don't want to sacrifice my units. Instead, I'm going to back up, and I'm just going to keep powering units because I know I can make more than you a lot quicker. And so soon we should actually see the attack that will decide the game right here. And here we go. It looks like the Roaches and Hydras are moving in. They're going into the choke point. They're about to meet the cannons. We got the force fields going down, splitting the army in half. Those are great force fields. Sentry's trying to do what they can. Zealot's coming out. More force fields. Unfortunately, he kind of blocked his own forces out, but that's kind of what he wanted because he didn't want to take the damage. And obviously, that Zerg force is a lot bigger than the Protoss force. Taking out cannons in the pylon. The battle's just going. The sentries are doing the damage they can. Zealot's trying to take a lot of the damage while the sentries do some damage, but of course the Protoss is forced to back out while the Zerg just moves right in, does as much damage as he can, and now he's just going to push his way through, and this should be over fairly shortly.
Yeah, all Husky can really do at this point is just try to use those sentries, try to block that ramp. But with Zerg, you have Overlords in the air, and now Probes coming up the mineral line, trying to fight back against all those Hydralisks. Probes not the counter to Hydralisks. I don't know what Husky's even thinking in that particular situation. And this should be GG in just a moment as those Probes are getting destroyed by the needle spines of those Hydralisks. And why are they not attacking? They're just trying to, no, GG, no. And now comes the GG.
So yes, our winner is our Zerg player, HDStarcraft. So, when you go home and tell your friends and you have that war of, who's better? Oh my god, Husky's better, HDStarcraft's better. Well, now you know. You can always just point back to this game and you can rub it in their faces.
Flawless victory.